Good morning. Howdy, howdy. So, the verse of the week, the verse of last week was chapter 6, text 47. We'll go into it a little bit more this week before we move on to the Gita Mahatmya. I'm going to go and spend some time reviewing the Gita Mahatmya, which is the seven verses compiled by Shankaracharya on the glories of the Bhagavad Gita. But first, I want to finish off some thoughts. I want to share and why bhakti yoga. We know that yoga, by connecting us with the Supreme, enables us to master or control or even transcend, really, the modes of material nature and the Irishadvatigas, right? We talked about how yoga leads to essentially transcending the modes of material nature and coming to the level of Brahman, where we are not controlled by the Irishadvatigas, right? Lust, anger, greed, kam, krodha, those things. And that's why yoga is superior to dharma. Dharma does not do that. Dharma allows for civilized living, but it does not enable the individual to transcend the modes of material nature. Only yoga is able to do that. In this verse, Krishna is saying, and of all types of yoga. And this is very important because there are a number of different yogas. Oftentimes, yogas are described as different paths. In truth, they're not. Think of the hub of this wheel is the living entity, you and I. From this living entity emanate various spokes, and the outer rim of the wheel is connected to the spokes, which are connected to the hub. So we now have a functioning wheel. Yoga are the spokes of that wheel. It is yoga, the spokes, that connect the hub of the wheel to the outer rim, which is Brahman, the Supreme, Ishtadevata, Krishna. We'll talk about that as we go along. But the outer rim is essentially spiritual reality. However you define that, we'll get to that later. But that outer rim is a spiritual reality. When the hub is connected to the outer rim through yoga, then we have a functioning existence that is beyond the modes of material nature, that is beyond the Arishadvatigas, Kam, Krodha, Lobha, and so on. That is why yoga is superior. That is why yoga is superior to simply dharma. Now, in this particular verse, bhakti yoga is essentially the best. Krishna uses the word bhajate, which is the root for bhakti. The bhakti yoga is the best. And it's important to note that bhakti yoga encompasses all the other yogas, but that's not the other way around. So Ashtanga yoga is within bhakti yoga. Yama, niyama, asana, pratyahara, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. All are encompassed in bhakti yoga. Jnana yoga is encompassed within bhakti yoga. Karma yoga is encompassed within bhakti yoga. So bhakti yoga has all of the yogas as part of its process. It's very unfortunate. Sometimes I hear people describe bhakti yoga. Oh, I practice bhakti yoga. Really? What do you do? How is your practice? And they say, I go to kirtan once a month, and that is how they sum up their bhakti yoga practice. And it's certainly a very, very important start to go to kirtan oneself. More than that, obviously. The reason why Krishna is saying bhakti yoga is preeminent of all the yogas is because it encompasses all the yogas. And it not only enables us to transcend the modes of material nature, but it connects us with the Supreme and gives us the ability to transform the modes of material nature. That's the difference. Ashtanga yoga, Jnana yoga, Karma yoga, these do not give us the ability to transform the modes of material nature, to transform the Arishadvatigas into bhakti, into love. That transformation does not take place. We can transcend the modes of material nature. Chapter 18, text 54, I believe, right? Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma. One who is thus transcendentally situated, it once transcends the modes of material nature and comes to the level of Brahman. In that state, bhakti can then happen. So the other yogas enable us certainly to transcend the modes of material. But bhakti enables us to actually transform all the energies of the material world, transform them into bhakti, into love in relation with the Supreme and everything around us. That is why, so bhakti is not so much the best of all the yogas. A better way of describing bhakti yoga is saying that bhakti yoga, that a mature bhakti yogi encompasses all the other yoga processes. Whereas that is not the case the other way around. Ashtanga yoga does not encompass bhakti. Let me take that back. Ashtanga yoga has elements of bhakti in it. Think of bhakti as the motivation, why we do something. There's that famous, I wouldn't say famous, but there's that prominent leadership guru, Simon Sinek, who talks about starting with why. He's talking in terms of leadership in business. But bhakti yoga is kind of like that, starting with the why of our spiritual practices. Bhakti yoga is that why. In Ashtanga yoga, we need that why. We need that element of bhakti. Why are we engaging in Ashtanga yoga? Same thing with jnana and karma yoga. So the element of bhakti is within these other yoga processes, but it is not matured. So when we think of the yoga processes and a hierarchy, if we want to use that terminology, bhakti is considered the maturity of all the other yoga processes with the added element of the ability to transform material energies, material nature into spiritual energy and spiritual nature. I don't want to go, that's a very simplistic way of putting it because I only wanted to share this for 5 minutes before we go into our japa. But bhakti is the transformational aspect of yoga, which the other yoga processes do not have. That's the difference. That's what makes bhakti yoga somewhat more. A mature yogi is a bhakti yogi. Let's put it that way. As we begin our yoga development, the more we mature in whether it's Ashtanga, Jnana, or Karma, the more we mature, we come to inevitably bhakti yoga. So the maturity of yoga is bhakti yoga, the ability to transform our reality into a loving, spiritually loving reality. Okay, let's chant some japa here and then get on with our day. Transform the rest of our day into spiritually loving transactions and relationships. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Veda Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. For our morning 7:30 Japa session and Bhagavad Gita Shloka. Hare Krishna, have a wonderful, wonderful day.